Nutrient programs don't have to be a one-size-fits-all. Cut the bullshit in marketing. Wouldn't you rather talk to the formulators and actual end users that are crushing it at scale? This is Salt Wars.
So tonight we're going to have an amazing round of panelists here. Let's do a quick little intro. You want to start out?
Ian from Pound Cake Farms.
I'm Ron Goldman, founder of HGV. I don't know what else you want to know. You're good.
Yeah, Craig Gendrick. I do R&D for Gen Hydro.
I'm Chad Salute, Director of Cultivation for Kush Alley and Maven, and love growing cannabis.
I'm Mo Korcher with AJ's Flowers.
Josh Newlinger, co-founder JR CropTech.
Chris Durant, formulator at Athena Nutrients.
Chris Michael from Ghost Buds Farms.
All right, guys, how are we on audio? Do we need to bump it up a little bit? Can you guys hear it in the back? Bump it up. All right. Bump up the speakers. All right. Oh, I know, my mic is hot as fuck. Your guys' mics get a little bit bumped up. We lost our audio guy. All right, live stream's ready to go? Awesome. All right, guys. Well, tonight is a very special night. Like many of you have probably seen in the Instagram comments, lots of wars, right? Lots of fighting, bickering in the comments. Tonight is the night that we can kind of leave it all out on the field, right? Let's keep it educational. Let's keep it civil. Shout out In-N-Out Burger, no animal style tonight, all right? All right, guys, so if you're in the audience, we will be passing around a mic and we will be asking some questions from you. So whatever you'd like to know, start thinking of that. We're going to start out right in the middle here. Chad, let's go ahead and start with you. What nutrients are you rocking and why?
I'm rocking GH. The ease of use, the mixing up, the clean salts. I keep it simple, and I just use GH. I don't add any additives or anything. I run a sterile system, and the price point and the quality's there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Chris, Ghost Budsters, let's talk about your run.
Yeah, so I run Athena AG. I run it because cleanliness, the easy use, and it's that's why I run it. I don't want to say anything.
Enough said. All right, Mo, how about yourself?
We're up in JR CropTech. From here to Palm Springs, Oklahoma. I've been on them for about 2 years. I think for price point, I think bud formation, overall ease of use, they've definitely been great to us. So,
right on, Ian.
I rock HGV. I run over 4,000 lights. I just run with the best.
Right on. Enough said. All right, so now you guys know. Each grower here, how many years have you been rocking these lines? I would imagine a couple years, more?
Since the beginning.
Since the beginning. That's a long time.
25 years.
Okay. 25 years?
I mean, since the start, we started on GH Flora Pro, old school formulas, Lucas, 111s. We've done it all.
Right on.
But I have used other nutrients along the way.
All right. Well, now we're going to dive into a little bit of Q&A. We've had some questions submitted through Grow World, through the community at large, through the audience as well. So, Craig, I'm going to start out with you, and then just through the line, guys, just jump in, okay? You can answer the same exact question. So, the first one we're going to dive into is manufactured salts versus DIY. Let's talk about the risks with the raw material, the supply, the quality, etc. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. I mean, part of what you're paying for is the fact that somebody else is doing it for you. And so at General Hydroponics, what we're going to be able to do is source not just one, but two different raw materials for every ingredient in that product. So when we have supply disruption issues that invariably will come up, we can swap out components and still deliver to you what you're expecting from us. So built into that is always quality control. So on a batch-to-batch basis, we're analyzing those finished products, and so we stand by what's in that bag because it's going to be the same every time.
Right on, Josh. Let's go down to you.
Inputs coming from mostly like 3 countries overseas, it can get hard, and you can definitely get bad batches. The important part is, like you said, having that quality control process in place where you are checking every single input that's coming in and making sure you have redundancy on your supplies so that you don't wind up empty buckets.
Yeah, very similar here. A lot of what you're going to get is quality control, right? Not just sourcing raw ingredients, but validating them every single batch. Gets a COA, gets an actual mineral analysis sent off to a lab, third-party testing. It's not just having backups, but it's having the best backups and working with the raw ingredient manufacturers to improve their processes to deliver quality product time and time again.
Ron?
So I've been blending nutrients since 1989. Been working with the same raw material suppliers for that time. As far as I know, we are the only company up here that actually has a manufacturing plant located here in Southern California. We make every single batch in-house. Every batch goes out for testing. Nothing gets released that hasn't been tested. In all of our years, we've never had a single recall. We've never had a stop sale placed on HGE from any Department of Ag. We are registered in every state that requires it in the United States, and our quality control is second to none because we actually we source our own raw materials, we manufacture every single batch, and I don't think anybody else in right here is doing that.
Would anyone else like to answer that question? I mean, let's talk about it. We don't have to, give away exactly where you're sourcing ingredients or exactly the secret formula, but let's talk about that. Quality control and ingredients. Chris, you want to jump in? Josh is going to drink. He's going to go round 2.
He didn't hear what exactly he said.
Yeah.
Oh, just
Where is your product manufactured? Like, do you own your own manufacturing facility, or are you using a third-party toll blender?
Yeah, we manufacture up in Sacramento, California. We have a facility there, 50,000 square foot. That's our primary location. We have distribution, multiple locations in the United States.
So are you own the manufacturing facility?
Yes. It's my facility. I'm there every day, Ron.
What kind of blending equipment are you guys running?
Do we need to get, I thought we weren't getting into all of our secrets here. I mean, you can...
This event was not brought to us by Coca-Cola. No secret formulas are going to be thrown out there tonight, but...
This has nothing to do with formulas.
Okay. So ingredients, sourcing them, where they manufactured, are you vertically integrated perhaps? Do you have a manufacturing plant? Maybe we could talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I'll jump in. General Hydroponics, all of our liquid nutrient lines are manufactured in the Bay Area, so within California. All of our salts here that you see at the table on site today are not in California, but we own the manufacturing. We control the supply chain, and we're very good at it.
Where is your salt line manufactured? Like what state, what country?
It's in the U.S.
Yeah, that's good. So, Chris, anything else you wanted to add to Athena's line?
No, I think the real focus for Athena is consistency, right? I mean, raw ingredient sourcing, supplying is at the heart of all of this, right? All of you expect to have a consistent product that you can run every single day, focus on your business, and that's what we do. We dedicate a huge amount of our time to make sure that every single batch you get is the same. That's what we're here for. That's what you're relying on.
Josh?
Yeah, we definitely don't have our own manufacturing facility, but we work with people that are way better at that than I ever would be. So.
There you go. So I'd like to go to really the growers here, right? When you're looking at buying a nutrient line, let's start with you, Ian. What is the most important thing that you're looking for?
Consistency. The worst thing about salts is everybody's jumping on a new hype. And then next thing you know, they're coming back to what they're using because it clogged or it was inconsistent. And I just don't mess with that. I just stay with what I know works.
Okay. And what about you, Chad? You want to answer that?
Yeah, every line we run, we do an RD on. We'll do side-by-sides. I used to use Raw Nutrients. They're great. Price point and quality, we got a little bit better for our system out of GH. But I've ran SVA, SVB. I've ran the old DynaPro. I've run Botanicare. Like, I've run, I think, Mills, every nutrient I can think of. And quite simply, GH won it for us. Price point's great, but quality overall trumps that, and we got our quality out of it.
Thank you. Mo, just going on down.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with, for me personally, it had to do with support. I run into a lot of different facilities with a lot of different types of systems that have lots of different types of issues. I think to have guys like Josh Ramsey that are helping support that is just like a phenomenal asset that any grow could have. So they've been a huge thing, for me and my experience growing. Also the different types of systems, Josh and Ramsey come from the grow world, and have a really good record there too, and use a lot of the same systems that I've used, and have seen some of the issues that a lot of us have run into, and being able to have ease of use, clean lines, run with a Netaflex or a Dosatron or whatever type of system you're using to make things easier. It's a very simple setup, lets you get ready and going immediately.
Right on. Chris?
Yeah, so first off, all the growers, a lot of respect here on this board. There's a lot of knowledge. For me personally, on the side of it, I've ran every nutrient company that's up here. And I'm with Athena on this side of it because it is the consistency, it's the cleanliness. I cut my lines open, so in my commercial, first time in 2 years, nothing. No biomass, biofilm, no anything like that. The cleanliness, the sterile part of it, and it puts out for me the best product that I can put out into the market. So that's, and the team too. It's like everybody that's behind it. I'm in Michigan, so I'm a Michigan cultivator. I can call people in California, in the UK, in Thailand. Basically, it's like 24-hour customer service that they can get you in touch with somebody if you're having an issue or you want to talk about something or say, hey, we should change this up. What do you think? So I think it's not just the salt itself. It's the people that are running the company and overseeing everything and listening to the actual cultivators and being like, hey, this is what we're doing. What do you think? And bounce ideas back and forth. So that's right.
Yeah, and honestly, in 7+ years of filming facilities for Canna Cribs and Deep Roots, I have never once seen a farm with the same exact setup. Ever. And of course, we only film the best growers in the world, right? So for us, everyone here, right? Extremely knowledgeable, extremely talented. But if it works for you, it works for you, right? So there is not just one best kind of silver bullet solution for everything.
No, I would say that any of the products that is being represented up here today, a good grower will make any one of these work, or all of them work. And it just comes down to personal preference, the facility, the way it's set up. But there's not a bad product that's represented up on the stage.
That's right. Yeah, and it also comes down to support. So, Chris, I'm going to throw this back to you. Other Chris, Duran Chris here. So let's talk about support. Please, go through all the different ways that Athena supports growers worldwide, as Ghostbusters Chris was talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, we're a large company here. We've been expanding, pushing out into the EU market. We have a huge presence in Thailand, Canada, and we continue to support the growers. We've got 20 facility advisors that are always here. It's one thing to produce a high-quality tool in your grow. It's another one to have somebody on hand to always give you the support you need and to show you how to use that tool. And the experience that they have, the facilities that they get into, there's a huge familiarity with all of the different equipment. So we're not just going to show up and drop a bag of salt at your door. We're going to show you how to use your equipment, how to have the best outcome, and to troubleshoot all the way along the way. We understand that price compression is continuing to happen in this market. And if we can provide that support as part of the product that you're buying, you can optimize your grow, keep your costs down, and delegate tasks, trusting in the consistency.
I'd like to
Yeah, jump in.
Everybody out here that's running HGV has my personal phone number. has called me at home, weekends, holidays, 24/7. I'm available to all my customers.
I can attest to that. I got Ron's number in my phone book. So.
I don't have Ron's number. Come on, what the hell?
You got a grow facility?
Hey, I got 300 plus on Grow World, so we'll talk about that after. Craig?
Yeah, I was just going to add, you mentioned no two growers have the same setup, and that's the same as what we see. And honestly, that's what makes my job so fun, is because that whole troubleshooting aspect and helping elevate people to be better and figuring out what's not working with them. And so we take a lot of pride in being able to go in, and if I don't know the answer, there's somebody on Gen Hydro's team that does, and we'll work it out for you. If it's lights, if it's newts, if it's substrate, like we'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've been working with you guys for almost a decade now. Josh, how about yourself? What kind of support at JR CropTech?
Well, so Ramsey and I currently personally operate, I think it's 11 different sites throughout the U.S. And so we've seen, most, if not everything that can go wrong in a commercial facility. We do, design work and stuff like that on the side. So we brought that same level of knowledge into our fertilizer side with helping people how to apply it, how to adjust things if you want to. But anyone that knows us knows we'll also just pretty much answer whatever questions people throw our way, whether it has anything to do with our nutrients or not. We can help you with irrigation scheduling tactics and things like that to help lead you to success with the product.
Right on. And just to take a quick note at where we're at right now in 2024. I mean, Brandon has a podcast, right? You guys are writing books. I mean, there's so many new ways to educate growers that, enter your program. It's incredible, right? Podcasts, are there anything online that you're doing, Ron?
I am anti-social media. I think it's the downfall of the majority of growers.
Amen.
The University of Instagram is not accredited, and it is not a good place to get your information. You look at all the people that are sitting up here. I've been growing cannabis since 1975. I don't know how many hundreds of years probably combined sitting at this table, and this is a much greater resource than some guy sitting in his mom's basement that has a 2-light tent.
That's the best grower in the world, right? And shout out to Sergio for throwing Connect. Can we get a round of applause for Sergio? Sergio couldn't be here tonight, but we are extremely grateful to be able to bring us together, right? In a way that the comment section on Instagram just tears us apart. This event builds us, right? You guys are competitors, but you have agreed to sit here, and we're about to crank up the notch a little bit, all right? We're going to crank up the heat. You guys passed the first round, all right? So let's be civil. Be civil, no animal style, like I said earlier, all right? So we're going to talk about formulations chemistry. We're not going to start with you, Ron. We're going to end with you on this one, okay? So how to minimize caking and maximize solubility. Correct? Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, the message here is trade-offs. What do you prefer? And not to get too nerdy, but there's...
Please get nerdy.
All right.
That is why we're here.
We'll take, for example, mag sulfate is a really common ingredient. It comes in two forms. As a formulator, you can choose one without water attached and one with, it's called anhydrous, has no water. And then you have a heptahydrate form that you can formulate with. Well, you get more bang for your buck. If you're looking at it strictly at cost, you want to use the anhydrous. You get a higher concentration of magnesium and sulfur. It's cheaper. But the problem is that lack of water is gonna be contributing to some of these problems that people don't like to have. And so in that spectrum between caking and solubility, what we do in our formulations is try to have a mix so that you're not tilting the spectrum towards one or the other. And yeah, there might be some formulas or some products up here that go into solution quicker, but they just the way that they're formulated, they may tend to cake more than others. And so it's really something that you have to ask yourself what you're willing to tolerate more.
Okay. Who wants to jump in next?
That was about, that's pretty much the same as what I was going to say. We use all anhydrous salts to, where possible, to prevent that or extend that shelf life and prevent the caking, along with using a real thick mill bag on the product and making sure it's sealed all well and everything.
Yeah, there's also transportation. There's two types of caking, really. You have mechanical caking and you have chemical bridging. When you're talking about the heptahydrate down there, you get some release of water. It's temperature sensitive, right? It's going to release some of those hydrates. And having your supply chain locked down and the way that you're transporting all of these things is incredibly important. And then there's also just caking from being compacted. Those are two very different things and have a very different impact on the grower. Nobody really wants to be breaking up a bag of salt, though, I think at the end of the day. Again, what they're saying here is all still relevant.
Thank you. Ron?
So all of the raw materials that all of us are using are extremely hygroscopic. They want to pull moisture out of the air. Put a bag on dry concrete, it's going to pull moisture out of the concrete. The environment that it's made in, how it's stored, and like he said, transportation is the biggest enemy to all of us. I sent a truckload from Washington to LA. There were fires in Northern California. They closed Interstate 5. It's 120 degrees in Redding. And the truck sat there for 8 days in the back of a sealed container. It literally melted the product. So that was unavoidable, but it happens. And all of us have learned, from where we all started and experimenting in products and learning how to package better, learning how to transport better. But the inherent nature of any of the raw materials we use is they want to dissolve in water, and they're going to pull it out of the air. You raise the temperature as the product heats up, it releases moisture. It's inside of a sealed bag. When it cools down, it pulls the moisture back in, and product being repeated in that cycle over and over again is going to look different when you open the bag. The good news is it doesn't hurt the integrity of the product, but anyone that has a 25-pound bag that's been exposed to moisture or heat, you're much better off to turn the entire bag into a liquid concentrate where you're rehomogenizing everything equally, because to start taking tablespoons out of a 25-pound bag that's been liquefied or exposed to that, you're not going to get everything that you want to get in every teaspoon or tablespoon that you pull out of it.
Any growers want to comment on that? Chad?
I'll make a little comment on that. When we go through all these salts, there's one thing to trust what's on the package, and there's another thing to redundantly check your EC levels and your volumetric levels to make sure they're within line. Ron gave me a cool tool, about 4 years ago, that is a real accurate EC meter that we use on every facility to make sure our concentrates are in check. Everything we run is on the fly. I don't have batch tanks, so we have to make sure everything's precise. And like Ron said, we can grow with any of these nutrients, which just what's best suited for our situation. But that is something we look into. None of these lines are caking up. None of these lines are taking in water and then leaking on the ground. Like they're all solid.
Thank you. Any other comments on this topic? No? I'd love to ask the audience. Does anyone have a question for these guys? Anyone?
Nobody wants to hear us talk.
No one wants to ask a question? 0. All right. So there is someone back there? Come on up. If you guys have a question, come on up here, and you'll ask it right up here. So I'd like to ask you guys, in 2024, again, this market is turning global, right? So transporting your nutrients from the U.S. to Colombia or Australia, what does that look like? What is the future of, transporting HGV, for example?
It's going to take a lot of research because a lot of markets are opening up in extremely humid environments, and transportation is sticking stuff in a shipping container and putting it on a ship where it could spend weeks on the water. So I think every one of us...
Speak up just a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I think every one of us here is going to have to face that issue when we get to that point and then come up with a solution. But one of the things that everybody here that's a grower, we're all very good at creative problem solving, right? And that's what keeps us in business, and that's why we've been around this long, is because anytime we're faced with a challenge, we don't run away from it, we find a solution to it.
I mean, the alternative is to find a third-party manufacturer in those countries on site, so you're not having to deal with import issues and regulatory issues. And so there's a number of different strategies that you can do to expand, and then that just makes quality control a little bit more important.
Right. Josh?
I missed the question.
Oh, just no worries. So we're just talking about the future markets of cannabis and shipping nutrients around the world to different customers. How are you guys kind of set up, and how do you foresee that future?
That's fun. We use a consulting firm to help us with the regulatory stuff in other countries, because trying to learn all that, I don't have the space for it in my head. It's a tough one, because every state, every country has different rules and different things you have to have on the label, and trying to make one label that satisfies every country overseas, because you don't want to ship to England and then ship to Scotland, or to use an example, but it's definitely fun.
Okay. And Chris?
Yeah, following up here. It is tough from a compliance standpoint to hit all these different jurisdictions. They all have different requirements, and we support that. We have a robust compliance department to ensure that anything that gets delivered overseas is compliant. We've recruited top talent, brought them in, and we can ensure that if it's in your country, it's legal, you can use it. We also have a simulation rig to actually test shipping conditions around the globe. We've modeled a lot of the different salts and products actually in a container and data log them down to Chile, Argentina, and over to Europe to verify that they're actually going to make it, be secure, take that data, and then we can replicate that and model it in-house.
Thank you, guys. Now we have a question from the audience, all right? So we're going to start with you, Ian, okay? So what method of irrigating are you guys using? So let's talk about your irrigation setup. Do you guys have day tanks? Are you making concentrates? So let's just kind of go through the setup here to help provide context.
I use drip half gallon per hour. I prefer batch tanks. Gives me a little bit more control over every individual room. And I keep it simple.
Can I answer?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Please
okay.
do.
So every facility that I've built since the late 80s has been direct injection, running as simple as dosatron up to even higher, more expensive systems. But for every building that I've done, direct injection gives us more room to grow, right? We don't have batch tanks taking up valuable space. Every square foot of a grow facility that's not growing plants is not making you money. And so for us, it's been the most efficient way to run our operation.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, irrigation is one of those topics I could talk for another 2 hours on. And so of all the customers that we've seen, there is that one person growing deep water culture on styrofoam floats, 3 foot tall cannabis plants. But the most common is drain to waste with drip, and I think that's probably what I've seen the most out here on my visit. But the biggest difference that I'd say is that if depending on the substrate, you really got to have a customized program, whether it's rock wool or cocoa. And so trying to run the two of them the same way is a nightmare for a disaster.
Yeah. Before we dive in here, we got some loud talkers in the back, and it's a little bit hard to hear. Totally fine. If we could just bring it down a little bit. This is a big-ass warehouse. Thanks for hosting us. But it's just a little bit hard to hear back there. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we use Argus in every facility, so we do not have batch tanks. We feed on the fly. That's why we have to ensure that our nutrient recipes are correct every time. So usually when we go through once a month, we'll send in samples. We'll send it over to GH, make sure it's in line. Everything's running good. I wish I could run 0.33 drippers on everything, but limitations due to our fertigation. We can only run 6 gallons a minute, and we run 60 strains. So they're all...
That's a lot.
There's a lot of stuff there, but each zone's on its own valve, and I can only get down to maybe 14 gallons a minute, so I have to use bigger drippers. Only batch tank we use is in veg because we precision irrigate a lot in veg. And we do a lot of feedings per day. Mostly I go off of runoff percentage. That's kind of been our thing. We're using Aurora now. We're trying to get the sensors all in. We've been blessed with some, so we'll see how that goes. But precision irrigation, looking at runoff percentage, and just on the fly.
Right on.
Yeah.
So I use multiple different systems, from Rhythm to Netaflex 3G to Dosage to Total Grow to Auto Grow, all the grows. My preferred way would be to have stock concentrates with the Netaflex system or H.E. Anderson system, Dosatron, into individual batch tanks per room. I use 0.3 gallon per hour emitter drippers, and that can go into unislabs, 1 gallon cocoa bags, slab god method, 3 plants on a 10-liter slab. We use Arroyo sensors at all facilities. They're super, super helpful to visualize what's going on inside of the substrate, to be able to read EC and water content levels. We also, along with that, measure runoff and pH to see what's aligned inside the substrate. Yeah.
Yes. So I use Agrotech. Agrotech, I use their BDX and GCX for their environmentals, and also the dosing. I use 0.6 drip emitters, and then on top of that, I'm still an HPS cocoa guy. So I try to keep it as simple as possible.
Can I add something real quick? I think this is such an awesome event to have some of the dopest people in the world. I spoke to these guys multiple times, from all brands. All these guys are fucking intelligent, smart dudes. So it's an honor to be sitting up here with them, and I'm super, super happy for you guys up here. And I highly encourage that here at this moment right now with these guys here is a rare thing that we get to see in our industry. So definitely utilize this time to answer the questions, because you have some of the most brilliant minds in cannabis here in front of us. So.
Thank you guys for being here, all of you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. So one quick note about that, right? Just about Grow World. We just launched, but this is what we're trying to do, right? Again, I keep saying, fuck the Instagram comments, honestly. It has ruined us as a society, but also...
Instagram is fake, man.
It's ruined us. So we need to have this public forum, right? In person, online with Grow World. This is what we're trying to build right here. So thank you guys for being part of this. All right, so we have another question from the crowd. I'm going to read it verbatim here, okay? All the growers implied they use the bases from these brands. Do each of these brands offer you a complete line, or are there supplements missing you have to source elsewhere? Let's start with you, Ian.
I've never implied I use all HGV. I use Yara base. Ron will tell you straight up, go ahead and use it. It's the same thing. It's actually a little cheaper. And I'm happy with that. The honesty right there shows a lot, And I've never implied I use only HGV.
And maybe from a formulator's perspective, right? Is HGV the one-all, be-all, or...
So, as you pointed out earlier, or somebody on the panel here, we have no standardization in this industry. So we have customers running everything from soil to deep water culture to nutrient film technique, flood and drain beds. While I would love to say there's one product that would work across the board, I think everybody up here, their product, if you understand the media you're working with, you can make it work without additives. Every additive I've ever seen is just one or two of the products that we blend together stuck in another bottle where they can charge you more money for it. We'll take some out of our base and make you buy it as an addition. There's really nothing in any of our formulas that is not 100% complete. That you're not gonna, you can't get more than 100% out of your plants, and if you're band-aiding, you should be fixing the problem instead of just throwing more and more additives on it. Our facility is set up as a testing facility as well as a production facility. I do side-by-side testing, and it's not just that plant looks better than this one. It's very scientifically done. Plants are individually harvested, weighed, dried, weighed again, bucked, weighed again, sent into the lab for testing. And we test products all the time because I'm always looking how can I improve for not only my facility but for all of my customers. If I find something that makes HGV better, I'm going to make sure all of my customers know about it. To this day, we have not found anything that gives us higher yield, higher terpenes, higher potency. Those are the three things that make us money as a cannabis grower. So if you're adding a product, there's a cost associated with it, and if you're not getting any return on your investment, it's a waste of money. So I would say most additives are more of a Band-Aid than, there are no super secret ingredients. There's nothing any of us use that the other one doesn't have or can't get. There is no magic bullet. Like, learn your craft, be good at what you do, understand that nutrients are a very small part of what's going into your end product, and make sure that your facility is running correctly.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah. So for me personally, yeah, it's 100% complete line, Athena on the side. How many people are actually growers that are out here right now? Just curious. No, but like if you look at it, California right now has like a race to the bottom in the market. Michigan's coming there right now too. When there's certain things, when I first talked to Brandon and the team over at Athena, and I was like, hey, listen, I'm cutting your core out at this day because I don't want the nitrogen that's actually going in there. I won't say listen to me, but they listened to a lot of growers that were saying that, then they created Fade. Well, on that standpoint, that's changed because now I can set my room up and I can be like, okay, in Michigan, we're very fortunate on the price per pound that we're currently getting right now. But if I have something that I want to switch over and do hydrocarbon or rosin, just by switching over to using the actual Fade and putting that in and integrating that, I've got a 0.5 to 0.7% finish of rosin increase all throughout. So if I can translate and be like, well, here if pounds are 22, 24, 2600 dry, if I can get that return back on rosin or hydrocarbon, it feeds every family that works for me. So for them to be able to listen to the cultivators and actually do something about it, it changed my life. So.
Thank you. Chris, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, not necessarily to that, but, hearing a lot of hate for Instagram out here, but, Athena's here to meet you where you're at. If you want to get us on Instagram, hit us on Instagram. Hit us on Instagram.
Just the mics next to each other, guys. That's all.
Well, yeah.
You're good. Just the feedback.
Hit us on Instagram. I think by ignoring some of the Instagram, you might be missing out on helping the customers that need the help, We really are here to support the smallest grower and the biggest grower. And if their avenue to get a hold of us is Instagram, well, damn it, we'll be on Instagram. There might be bad information. We can be there to help clear it up. Why ignore them?
Yeah, I think, go for it, Craig.
No, I was just going to add and basically flip that question back to whoever asked it. What do you want? And the key to that is flexibility, right? And so if Chad comes and says, hey, man, I think we need to adjust something in our feed program, we can make it work. We have enough products in the portfolio where we can there's 13, 14, essential elements that we have to be delivering to these plants. And we can be as prescriptive as you want with that.
And I'll add to that. So we do supplement mag sulfate and monopotassium phosphate on one of our recipes to add a little bit of sulfur at the end. They were very flexible. They didn't try to get me to use their products. I told them what I was going to use, and they worked their system to make my system work. Back in the day, we've all ran Advanced. If you were around for a long time, we used 16 different components. We put it in there. I'm a keep it simple, stupid guy, and I'm getting better product than I did back in the day when I added all those things in. You start getting convoluted, you start burning. Only thing I really add to our mix is a hypochlorous acid, which keeps the biofilm out of my lines no matter what. And I don't run organic. I don't run any organics in my system. I commercially clogging drippers and all that. I mean, it's just not worth it for me. I'll add a little bit of xylitol in veg and hypochlorous acid.
I also think it depends too, right? If you're a commercial or retail home grower, right? So I mean, a lot of us here are commercial. Everything JR CropTech is doing commercial, but Athena, you guys are retail as well. So I think it depends on what the needs are for the consumer, on what how that's branded and the business solution for that too, right?
Yeah, home growers have a lot more leeway to play around with things and fail and try again and try again. When you're running commercial, it needs to be the same every time, and so you can make a profit. Yeah. But with Crop Tech, it's basically everything but the calcium nitrate, calcium chloride. If you'd like adding that, those are just commodity salts. You may as well, like everybody said, you may as well just pick them up yourself. You're going to spend $30 on a 50-pound bag. It's pretty cheap stuff.
So, Josh, I want to stay with you for a moment here. Let's talk about your founder journey. So, why did you start JR Crop Tech? Like, how did it come to be?
Just kind of out of necessity. We've been working in the industry for a long time, and I just had my own recipe that I made out of raw salts. When you get to operating a lot of commercial facilities, that gets unfeasible to do. Just from my experience, trusting the $15 an hour guy mixing the batch tank every day to weigh out exactly enough, iron EDTA or whatever it is. A lot of times that leads to a lot of error. And it's possible to make whatever you want, and adjust according to your leaf tissue desires or whatever you have. But it also it adds so much complexity that we found it significantly hampered the bottom line in the end. So we saw the demand out there for it, and for something that ran well with the kind of like what they call crop steering protocols and whatnot that we do, high PPFD, kind of supercharge every variable that's there. And from our experience in testing, it worked well. So we decided to let everybody else have it too, basically.
And talk to me about the next decade of JR Crop Tech. Where are you going to be?
All over the place. We're working on some stuff on the control side for as far as JR Crop Tech, the total company goes. But on the nutrient side, we're working on finding like some novel ways to deal with some of these issues with people having clogs in their lines or something to make it bulletproof. Because there's easy ways to go about it now, but not everybody follows instructions the first time or reads them. So having something that just kind of makes that foolproof is our goal next, and getting into some different forms of these products we like to put on stuff.
Thank you. So Chris Duran, I know Brandon's background and kind of how Athena came to be, but I've never spoken to you before. So tell me about the kind of the background, the formulator story behind Athena Nutrients.
That means I was successful hiding in the background. Been trying to do that for a long time. I've been commercially formulating and selling nutrients for 12, 13 years. It's a hard game, right? Getting out there. You can have a great formulation, but if you don't have the fantastic team around it to support it, it's just not going to take off. You're not going to engage the grower with what their real needs are. Once you hit crop-specific targets with all these different cultivars, there's a level of support that's needed to really take you to the next level and to let you grow your business. So my background, for those of you that don't know, I spent 15 years with UC Davis working alongside research scientists over there like Craig. It's a fantastic gig.
Sorry, I apologize. Cops are about to tow the cars. If anyone's parked, Anthony, we're just red curbs. If you parked on a red curb, that guy parked on a red curb. He just ran away.
That might be me too.
Yeah.
You didn't drive.
A lot of people parked on red. 10-minute intermission. We do not want to miss these knowledge bombs. Let's move those cars.
Perfect. I'm going to check on my car too.
That's why you don't park on a red.
Neighbor's lot. All right, guys, we're going to start this back up again. If you could please kind of keep it a little bit quiet for us in the back, or just go outside and talk louder. That's fine. All right, guys, so we're going to start this back. You guys ready to go? Locked in? Let's do it. So, Chris, we're going to start with you, and we're going to dive into your story. Why did you start growing?
So I started cultivating back in, so I'm from Michigan, just so everybody knows. I started cultivating, well, let's say this. I was smoking and selling weed before it was legal or anything when it was actually legal. Then I started getting in the cultivation because my now current partner, Brandon, his daughter was born with half a brain. And they took her to the emergency room. She was only supposed to live till she was, I think, 11 or 12. They said, hey, listen, the medication's not working anymore. This go home and love her. So at that point in time, he took her home, and he made a tincture. She's 27 right now. She's still in an incapacitated state, but for that, like, to be able to do that and actually help and like see the healing aspect of it, that's how I got into it, and that's where I'm at right now. So it's a different side when you actually see it like that.
Thank you for sharing that. Ian?
I used to be a pharmacy technician, and then I suffered a head injury in 2009, and I had no money, had a family to feed, and I took a loan out from my dad, started up a warehouse on a whim, and then this is all she wrote, you know, just kept going with it. I love the plant. I love what it does for people. Likewise for what he just said. And it brings people together, you know. A little bit different than alcohol, a little bit different than art, but it's an amazing plant, and I love what I do, you know.
So I started growing cannabis in 1975, about 25 miles from here in North Hollywood, California. Came home from school one day, found some seeds on the kitchen counter, took them out in the backyard, planted them, and found my life's calling within a few weeks. Like, I've been growing cannabis ever since. I won't ever stop until I'm dead. It's my lifelong's work.
Yeah, so I've only been doing research on cannabis for 5 years, but prior to that, I've had a lot of experience understanding, learning how plants work. So have a horticulture training background, and when General Hydroponics was looking for somebody that was just this awesome opportunity to take all of that horticulture knowledge, apply it to a crop. It really hasn't been characterized at that level. And so I've spent the last 5 years really reverse engineering, like the amazing work that's being done by the growers in this room, and the knowledge that they have is undocumented. And so I really feel like part of that mission that I want to contribute to the industry is to help bring those details to life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been growing cannabis since '95, before I graduated high school. Brothers were stoners, heshers back in the day. Grew up in an alcoholic family. Really was opposed to alcohol. Never morally or ethically had any issue with cannabis. I think all cannabis is medicine. I've seen it heal people and make their lives better. First job I worked at was adaptive driving systems. I used to do van conversions for handicap, so they can actually drive cars and put hand controls in. Worked with my wife for LAUSD as a special education assistant, so worked with children with special needs. I started interning at Bruce Margolin's office. I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to school to be a lawyer, graduated UCLA, grew cannabis all along, and, you know, fell in love with it. The money's not there for me, guys. Like, you know, people think there's a lot of money in growing cannabis. I could probably make more being an insurance salesman. And it's really passion-driven. I feel wholeheartedly that this is my calling, and, you know, I want to grow the best cannabis.
Thank you. Well?
So I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was a professional photographer back there. I had a friend of mine who was playing in the NBA at the time, who I was doing some photo work for, who invited me to come out to California and live in a house with him and train his team and artists on how to essentially be photographers and photo editors. I then took over as director of a beauty academy in downtown LA. We good? All right. That tripped me out. Then I came out to LA. I was director of a beauty school. I was in the process of creating a photography and Photoshop online course when one of my students introduced me to my former business partner who was writing a book on commercial SOPs in cannabis. It was called the CCI book from the Whipple Effect team. Through that is when I started seeing the challenges inside of commercial facilities, and I just had this obsession with seeing the amount of gaps that we have in our industry and operations in general, and consistency, and thought to myself, this would be probably one of the biggest challenges I could give to myself, was to how to grow this plant to its most potential consistently on scale, and being able to structure that in a system that would work continuously. And I think I just have an obsession with being able to do that, and that's why I'm here.
So I grew up in the Central Valley, California, ag land, so I was kind of surrounded by it my entire life. Worked in that industry, went to Fresno State, got my degree there, and got into mainly irrigation work at the time. Worked for a few companies, and then wound up landing at Netafim, and I had a really cool boss that let me just kind of go around and do whatever I wanted to get the more high-end commercial irrigation technology into cannabis that didn't really, but not many people were using it at the time. It was the days of octobubblers and shit like that. And so I got to work really closely with a lot of the time 7-year-old agronomists from Israel that knew a lot about practical agronomy, not just the theory, but how to actually apply that in real life. And I had been growing cannabis since 19 or something, because it was just, I had always had a fascination with that plant, and obviously smoking my fruits of my labor. But I kind of got to marry those two things together and take some of that commercial horticulture technology I've been seeing in the ag world and apply some of the techniques and principles into the cannabis world. I always saw good results, and it just became an obsession after that. Thank you.
Well, like Josh, I actually grew up in Central Valley, California also, so I invest through and through. Woo! Yeah, that's right. Agriculture's just always been part of my life. As I went through high school, kind of exploring and did a lot of kind of math nerd every year. Most people from my team knows I'm a huge nerd. When I was in college, I went to UC Davis, and when I was in college, I had an opportunity to start working for an entomology lab and get back into agriculture. And I really kind of fell in love with the idea of high quality agriculture versus high volume agriculture. I was surrounded by growers that were interested in increasing mass every day. How many tomatoes could you grow per acre? How many bushels of corn or soy? But the Japanese, they have this special quality and desire to grow the highest quality. And I really took a huge focus and love to that. And obviously, like the rest of us up here, heavy consumer of cannabis all through high school and college. And I saw a lack of information and a lack of knowledge, and I had a bunch of desire. And I wanted to really craft something and participate in an industry that I could drive a different narrative. It wasn't about just the amount, but it was about the quality. So I took what I learned. I'm lucky to spend 15 years next to some of the best plant physiologists in the world at UC Davis. Take what I learned there, formulating with them, and apply it to my craft. And obviously, formulate my own nutrients. It's fun to experiment. It's fun to try. It's fun to fail. And taking all those lessons that I've learned and matching it up with the team is really how I got here.
Right on. So this next question is about distribution, and anyone can jump in and we can, go through the line here. So, do you sell your nutrients direct to commercial growers, through hydro stores, through distributors? What's the distribution look like for each of your lines?
Yeah, I'll start. Gen Hydro's in thousands of hydro shops around the country. Now that we're seeing bigger commercial operations come into the market, we're trying to serve them with that same customer service that we're well known for independent stores.
Anyone else? Ron?
So we started off as just my wife and I blending. selling direct to customers. I got introduced to Max from Elevated Equipment Supply. And then we started just growing exponentially. Everything gets distributed through Elevated Equipment Supply at this point. So we have commercial growers, grow stores, hobbyists. Everybody's purchasing either through commercially through Elevated, and then for hobby growers, we have grow stores all over the country that are selling the product.
Right on. Josh, how are you guys set up?
Kind of all of the above. We're not in as many hydro stores as GH, definitely, but we have a few out there. But we have a locator on our website, and you can always just hit us up. We'll figure it out for you.
Right on. And Athena?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't do much on the distribution or sales side. I keep focused where I'm at, but we're out there. You can find us. Don't think we use any distributors, but at this point, call us up. That's where we're at.
Right on. So this next question came from the community. Ron, how about you start out with this one? Let's see here. How do you mitigate precipitation reactions from ions once liberated?
So this isn't rocket science. Follow the directions, right? We don't mix incompatible materials together. Every time we see precipitation, it's usually an error that was made in letting concentrates come in contact with each other. And I don't know if you went to chemistry class when you were younger, but if you have ever experienced what happens when you mix acids and bases together, it can be a very violent reaction. Fortunately, when things are diluted down, it's not that strong. But still, chemicals are going to react with one another and turn into other compounds, which is why we see PHF is extremely volatile. We keep calcium nitrate separate because you mix calcium with any sulfate material, you create gypsum, which turns like white, like sheetrock. So through educating our customers on how to properly mix and dilute our products to make them plant ready, we avoid all of those things from happening.
From a grower standpoint, when we get our new nutrients in, we usually do a simple cup test to see in line on our fertigation system what nutrient we're going to be putting next to each other. And you can take two of these concentrates and put them together and see how fast you see fallout from them. And that's kind of standard when you're doing a fertigation system, or even when you're adding it into your reservoir. There is an order that you really want to put in. You want to make sure it's all mixed in before you put the next one in. This was knowledge that we just maybe 5-6 years ago that we started getting into, because really it wasn't out there back in the day. You just kind of followed your bro's recipe, and now all these professionals are getting into it. And I got to say, Ron has taught me a lot, because I worked with him quite a bit, and it's a pleasure being up here with him. But you really got to reach out to these guys when you're looking at the nutrients and you're going to put it in a fertigation system. They'll give you these answers. They'll tell you how to mix these things, mix the concentrates, do the right dilution, the pounds per gallon. When you're mixing these concentrates, all this matters.
And read all of the directions, right?
We'll add one thing really quickly.
Hold on, Ron. Josh, keep going.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say really quickly, if you want to see these reactions take place in real time, HGV website, we actually videotaped reactions with potassium hydroxide, reactions between sulfates and calcium, and you can watch the videos, and it will appear in front of your eyes to show how quick that these reactions take place when you mix these improperly.
We call
that. Did the same thing. Have a video on my Instagram where I poured, the part A and the part B together in a glass jar. Watch it snow.
We call that making snow globes. Yeah,
exactly. Making snow or
and
making
so
concrete.
that's the benefit you get with any of these. We're doing that work, so you don't have to worry about it. Right?
Clean your tanks regularly.
Yeah, well, and pH, in order of injection to complement what they're saying, it's pretty important with some of these. Some of these have really high levels of calcium and phosphorus. You get that pH up just a little too high, and you just, like I said, snows in the pipes. and it can be difficult to deal with. So, making sure that you're applying it at the pH that particular formula was designed around, because we've taken these things into consideration in the formulation of it and the recommended pH. And just, order of injection may be different for different nutrients. You might have the part A or the part B first for one or the other, and it can, following what the manufacturer has said, do this to not have issues, do that and you won't have issues pretty much.
Yeah, I'll just add, there's a maximum solubility that you can reach, and then there's what we recommend you aim for. So, most of our customers will advise them to not go much higher than 1 pound per gallon, and that's going to ensure that you're not going to get stuff falling out in your stock tanks.
And temperature, right? If your tanks are sitting on the concrete and you're in, Michigan and it's 20 degrees outside and your tanks are right up against the wall with that same concrete slab that extends outdoors, that tank's going to get really cold. And like for ours, for example, 2 pounds per gallon max at 60 degrees. But if you bring that down to 40, stuff's going to start falling out. Just even if it was perfectly mixed up before, even if you used hot water initially, it's going to fall back out just because of that chemistry.
I would say Dynagrow used to do that for me. When I get below 60 degrees, crystals will form.
Dynagrow would come that way.
I got a question. I got a question for the team here. We just talk about pH up a little bit and how that's very common when causing issues. All the brands up here, what do you guys recommend for your lines? I'm very curious.
pH up?
Correct, for pH up.
Yeah, I want to touch on the precipitate thing here. It's a balance between concentration, time, and pH. Higher concentration, you're going to have a faster rate of fallout. Generally, higher pH, you're going to have a faster rate of fallout. A lot of these things, calcium phosphate being one of them, it's soluble in an acidic condition, but not a condition you want to run your plants at. So, everybody's seen dissolve an egg in Coca-Cola, right? Calcium phosphate, you're going to dissolve that stuff. But it's all about that meeting in the middle here. And then pH up, we recommend potassium carbonate. We sell a product, and we like to get a carbonate buffering system into it. Want to touch on that a little bit too, because we all talked about fallout from the nutrients alone, but there's also dealing with the source water. And if your source water has different components in it, you might have different precipitates that are going to form. So actually analyzing those, taking them in-house, and finding out what your precipitate is going to actually help you solve your problems and get customized advice as well.
So, controversial question here. All right. What is the number one misconception that people have about your line? And
That
can you educate
nutrients
them?
dictate yield at all?
That they what?
That nutrients dictate yield at all, or any one of the qualities in and of themselves. It's, nutrients are 10%. The other 90 is what you're doing with everything else in the room, the plants, everything. That's the biggest one. People are like, oh, well, I switched nutrients and I got a bigger yield, so it must be because of that. So not necessarily. You could have done something a lot, and running real side-by-side means same room, same genetic, same system for everything, just running two different, and everything else identical. A lot of times people do a trial in a room, then harvest that room, then do another trial in that same room with the next thing. And you can't really compare those apples to apples, because you may have had an AC failure during that time, you may have had a DHU go down, you may have had any one number of issues different during that run, or even just the weather outside making your ACs run differently. So it's doing a real side-by-side. It requires same room, same genetic, all that good stuff.
Controlled variables.
Yep.
I'll take it even a level beyond that. That terpene production is somehow magically changed by your nutrients as well. There's so many other factors that go into what you're producing, the quality of what you're producing. I like to use an analogy, right? So bodybuilders, right? If they don't work out, they're not going to get big. They're not going to put on muscle. It's the same deal. You got to actually take the genetics that exist. Arnold Schwarzenegger wouldn't have been a massive guy without the right genetics, but he also has to work.
And steroids.
Sure. But he has to eat right. So you give him the right food, and then you have to give him all the right parameters beyond that. You have to stress plants right. You have to actually give them the right conditions to achieve their optimal potential.
100%. I can grow a really shitty crop with any nutrient, or I can grow a decent one. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Any responses here?
I
think the biggest misconception is that people seem to think that if you're not using a liquid nutrient, that somehow the plant thinks it's different. Plants don't know that they're growing in rock wool or coconut or soil. They don't know if they're being fed liquid nutrients, dry salts that have been liquefied, which are virtually identical. And I hate to say it, but the O word, organic, very passionate growers. But the fact is, organic nutrients are broken down to the exact same chemical element that we're feeding in our product, and the plant does not know the difference.
We agree on that, Ron.
That is a huge 100%. Misconception in this industry. A nitrate ion is a nitrate ion, whether it's coming from bat guano or cow manure or calcium nitrate or potassium nitrate. They are chemically identical. If you look at the periodic table of the elements, there's not organic nitrate and inorganic nitrate, right? Because it's an inorganic compound, and it's broken down from an organic form to an inorganic form before the plant can even use it. And before people are quick to throw their judgment, they should actually do the research to find out what they're talking about instead of just spewing out misinformation that they heard from somebody else and didn't do any research to see if it was true or not.
So Grow World is all about trials, right? We are helping to promote a meritocracy in this industry. So a grower joins Grow World to get access to try before they buy. Do you guys have access to samples? Do you give out like a sample run?
Absolutely. If you go back to the booth back there, we can get all your information from you and supply a trial run so you can see for yourself if our product is the right fit.
Right on. How about you guys?
Same thing. We have a trial program, so stop by the table and we can talk.
I've received samples from everybody, so yes, they give them out. Yeah, you just gotta ask.
You can pick them up at the booth.
All these answers are wrong. It's join Grow World. We have our nutrients on Grow World. Come on. We talked about this, guys. This is a softball.
Well, there you go. That's my answer then.
There you go. They just joined. Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about getting nutrients potentially for free, right, for a trial, and then potentially beyond that trial. What does that look like, right? For growers out there learning from other growers, do you have growers kind of, part of the company,
I've been growing cannabis for going on 49 years. I provide support to all of our customers, just based on, I've been doing this for so long. I've made, I don't like to call them mistakes. They were expensive educational experiences. But the longer you do something, the more things you see, the more problems you solve, the easier it is to offer that support to your customer. Because when you have a problem that you've never seen before, it can take, it could be tragic, right? You could lose your entire crop. But you ask somebody, anybody up here that's a grower, right? We've seen a lot of crazy things happen, and it's very easy for us to answer it because we've experienced it. And I think every one of these companies is providing that support, and it's really important for growers to be able to contact their supplier. We try and establish long-term relationships with our customers. I have people call me, even if it's not nutrient related, so that, because I might have the answer that they're looking for.
Yeah, and having an R&D relationship, right? Trying new products before they hit the market. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, so we actually prefer people to come with a recipe already. I mean, we can give you something we know that works, but what we'd prefer is to be able to match your current program with our stuff, and that takes a lot of the fear out of making that change, because once you're dialed in and you're happy with the program, you might be looking to change for other reasons, and so it's pretty easy to fine tune your current recipe with whatever you're in into something that we offer.
Yeah, on my side, for like I said, with all the companies that are up here, I've ran all their nutrients. For people that are out here, I understand everybody gives trial runs, right? If you're a cultivator and you just do a trial, just go home, because you need to run that more than one time to be where it's at, you know, with Athena, before I was running other nutrients, I ran their nutrients in a room side by side, same varietals, same everything, and then compared it against those for a year before I actually fully switched over. Because I wanted to see, okay, what's my gram per square foot that I'm getting at? What are my, you know, hash returns? Where are my hydrocarbon returns? Where am I sitting at this? And what works best for myself? So if you're running any of these brands up here and someone offers you a trial, I suggest you take it up, but you have to be committed to at least run 3 runs of it. Personally, myself, because 1 run, you can't. I wish, you know, like, and if they're giving you the support at the company, like, you know, and you say, like, if you call any of the guys from, you know, Athena on the side, you know, if you said, hey, this is really working for me. Do you mind if I get a couple other bags? I don't think that, well, I know that they won't say no, but also I'm sure the same with any of these companies, because that's what they want. The family, the community. This is what it is.
I completely agree with that. So we're wrapping up here. Final words of wisdom. Ron, Ian, what's your words of wisdom for our growers out there? Rapid fire.
Keep it simple. We all want to chase that best harvest, which I understand, but at the same time, if you're going to add something, add one. Don't add a nutrient, change your environment, change your irrigation strategy. Stick with one thing, see if it makes that difference. It's going to take time, but when you perfect it, you can't go wrong.
Learn your craft, right? There's no fucking easy buttons in any of this. And you're not going to become a master grower, because there is no such thing, right? The only way that you're going to get better at this is to do it and ignore what everybody else is doing, because your situation is specific to your grow.
Put the blinders on.
Absolutely.
Also, I want to say, just don't throw anything in the reservoir your boy says that works. You know how many times I've lost a harvest because of that? It's ridiculous. Do your research. See if it's the same thing that you're adding already. A lot of people double up on things they don't even know are in their nutrients just because their buddy's like, bro, I hit 3.3, gotta do it. No. Try it out, research, take some things out, add some things, and make sure you do it step by step.
Right on.
Yeah, I'd just say, don't let your ego get in the way of asking for help. I don't know everything. Chad doesn't know everything. But together we're going to figure it out, and if we can't figure it out, we'll find somebody that can. And
I'm going to echo that. Use your network. Use the experts around you. You have a lot of resources now. Back in the day, we went on forums. We trusted what people told us. You have these companies that you're buying products for that want you to succeed. Use them. They're there for you. Reach out. Reach out to Nick. This is the way to win, guys. Don't use bro science. All the bro science you were taught, make sure you're trying that. You know, if you're gonna defoliate, make sure, try not defoliating. See what happens. Use these experts, man.
Yeah, I think we're in such a time right now where there's so much information out there from very reliable sources. You know, ask as many questions as you can. You'll be surprised. I mean, the people that are in this room, that are on this panel, you know, you get to meet some really, really good people that are willing to help and help you along the way. And I feel like, you know, in this industry, we want to share that information, right? The more we can help each other grow, the stronger we are as an industry. So I think it's a big thing that, you know, the Connect is doing this community right now. I think this is an amazing thing, you know, so make sure you guys are networking and doing your thing tonight. Use the people around you. Thank you, Nick, for hosting. Grow World is an awesome, awesome place to meet a lot of people and get a lot of these trials and do a lot of these things. So, you know, to say what Chad said, you know, ask questions, use your resources. There's, you know, a lot of info out there that are from reliable people that have some good products. So.
Kind of just echo what they're saying, you know, don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. We're all doing this at a commercial scale all over the U.S. and have probably run into the issue that you're running into, and don't mind answering questions. That and read the directions are my advice. Read the directions.
Yep. Thank you to everybody for being here. Really want to say we appreciate this. You know, it's an honor to be on this stage up here. You're all here for a reason. Thank you. Thank you for hosting this, Nick.
It's all Sergio,
Yeah.
Keith, Kevin. Thank you guys. Let's get a
Appreciate
round of
that,
applause
Sergio.
for our host tonight.
Thank you, Sergio.
Thank you guys so much. Chris, I didn't figure out.
Yeah.
Let me finish this up here. I got one more thing to say. You know, we have a lot of conversations in this industry with Athena, and in business, you're running a business when you're running a grow. You know, our conversations often start with nutrients, but they end with running your business. And it comes down to simplifying and streamlining your operations. Work with companies that want to make your life simple and not make your life more complicated. I think you'll find better partners there.
No, so the way that I look at it, I have a ton of friends on the cultivation side that don't run the same nutrients that I do. And that's where it's at. You know, we'll talk about genetics. You know, it's kind of the taboo area. I'm always like, yo, hey, come on, you should try it out, of course. But that's just my personal opinion and take on it. I think that just as long as community can stay together on the side and keep open, constructive criticism during that point in time, because, yeah, there'll be people that'll run stuff and they might not agree with what I'm running, but that's just what works with my cultivation. And I can call, like I said, and it's back to it, is I can call anybody, and it's crazy how close I became with all these, facility advisors. But if it's 10 o'clock at night, I can call JJ over in Cali, he'll answer. Then as soon as it hits from there, I'll be like, okay, and if he doesn't have an answer to something, it just networks on. So for me, social media on the side of it, just being able to talk with other people, now how bad cannabis is being used in Instagram and everything like that, it's horrible. But now I use it more as a platform to still, like, anybody that sends me a message, I'll respond back to it. Maybe not right away. I mean, my wife hates it, but I'll respond back and I'll say, hey, and try to help out. There's a guy in Iran that actually messaged me that got some Athena, and he was running it, and I don't know if he was asking me questions, and I'm trying to work back and forth with him. 6 months, year later, after the fact, he had his first, like, actual real successful crop in Iran, which was super cool. But the second thing is, I don't know his backstory. I didn't know if he had where my partner came from. I didn't know if he had close head injury. I didn't know if anything. And it's just, it's great being able to talk with these people and figure out their stories and be able to help. I know everybody here, that's what they want to do. So they want to help and provide the best service that they can.
Thank you guys, seriously, for everything you've done for our plant, our community, everyone here. You're helping us level up, so thank you guys. Seriously.
Thank you for having us.
And that's a wrap. Thank you guys for showing up.
Thank you, everyone.
Keith at the Hydro Source, Sergio from Connect. Thank you guys. See you at the next one. GrowWorld.com.